It's the Daily Doug.
Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Daily Doug. Thanks for being with me today. It is a Friday, and we are getting back to Radiohead today with the conclusion of OK Computer. So, about a month ago, friends, I listened to the first 6 songs from this album, and I was completely taken with it, and I have been waiting patiently to get to the rest of it. And you will notice I am not at my home studio. I am back in Kentucky at my mom's house, but that is not keeping me from making new content because I wanted to get back to the rest of this album for sure, friends. So it's going to be great. Before we listen to Airbag and then Paranoid Android and then Subterranean Homesick Alien, Exit Music for a Film, unbelievably beautiful song. That one, y'all. That one just left me just breathless. And then we had Letdown, and then we ended with Karma Police. And as you remember, at the very end of Karma Police, there was this big detuning that just went way down. And I was like, what the hell is going to happen next? Right? And so that is where we pick up our story today, friends, with the rest of the album. As a reminder, Radiohead is Tom York on the vocals, Johnny Greenwood is on guitars and keyboards, Philip Selway is on drums and percussion, Ed O'Brien on guitars and sound effects, and Colin Greenwood on the bass. The album is produced by Nigel Godrich, and all of the songwriting credits are attributed to members of the band. So remember what we're talking about here in this album. It's coming out in 1997, in the late 90s, and it's not a concept album, but the songs are dealing with living in a world that is trying to kind of separate us from our uniquely human experience that we're used to having here, right? So we have all of this new technology and new stuff that is distracting us and keeping us from our what we're used to, right, as a human experience. So there's consumerism that's kind of trumping everything else that's going on. We're being societally alienated from each other. We're getting lonely. There's a general unease about the world that we're experiencing, and that is the situation and the environment from which these songs are being written and performed. And so it's an interesting perspective that I want to continue on with. So yeah, we had that very end of Karma Police, and it got detuned and all that stuff went just right down. And so Fitter Happier is the very next song on the album, and that's the one that we're going to start with. So let us waste no time, friends. Here is Fitter Happier. Off we go.
Fitter, happier, more productive, comfortable, not drinking too much, regular exercise at the gym, 3 days a week, getting on better
AI
with
is
your
talking to
associate
me.
employee contemporaries, at ease, eating well, no more microwave dinners and saturated fats, a
more
patient
microwave
better
dinners.
driver, a safer car, baby smiling in backseat, sleeping well, no bad dreams, no paranoia, careful to all animals, never washing spiders down a plug hole, keep in contact with old friends,
Huh.
enjoy a drink now and then, will frequently check credit at Moral, Bank, Hole in Wall, favors for favors, fond but not in love, charity standing orders, on Sundays reading Road Supermarket, no killing
Sundays, Ring
moths
Road
or
Super-
putting boiling water on the ants, car wash,
This is
also
crazy.
on Sundays, no longer afraid of the dark or midday shadows, nothing so ridiculously teenage and desperate, nothing so childish, at a better pace, slower and more calculated,
It's
no
like a
chance of
lament
escape,
behind it,
now self-employed,
along
concerned,
with these
but
weird
powerless,
sounds.
an empowered and informed member of society, pragmatism not idealism, will not cry in public, less chance of illness, tires that drip in the wet, shot of baby strapped in backseat, a good memory, still cries at a good film, still kisses with saliva, no longer empty and frantic, like a cat, tied to a stick, that's driven into frozen winter shit, the ability
It
to laugh
definitely
at
is a
weakness,
continuation
calm,
of the
fitter,
previous song, I
healthier,
think.
and more productive, a pig, in a cage, on
There's the
antibiotics.
detuning again. A pig in a cage on antibiotics. Fitter, healthier, and more productive. A pig in a cage on antibiotics. Well, that's a way to start, y'all. Okay, what was going on in this? The lyrics are being recited by an AI voice, a synthesized voice that is called Fred. And it was available on classic Macintosh computers, the Macs, back in the 90s. I was always a PC guy back then, y'all, and so I don't know about this, but apparently you could put this text into one of the applications in the 90s era Macintoshes, and you would get out this robotic voice. Really interesting. From an interview that was published in Rolling Stone in 2017 for the 20th anniversary of the album, Nigel, the producer, said this: "I remember working downstairs in the library space, and Dan, Dan had been upstairs writing short stories and getting Fred, the nickname for their Apple Macintosh, to speak them, and he would send them to his dad. He was just having this kind of conversational discourse when we all thought that was hilarious. But Tom had disappeared for a few hours, and he came down and said, 'Oh, I did this,' and then he played it, and it's like, fuck, that's perfect." Fred's voice is so unemotional. I've always been interested in voice synthesis because it's such a sort of bizarre juxtaposition of technology, trying to communicate verbally, which is what we naturally do. But it's a very, very, very flat kind of delivery. And so that was clearly something that moved all of us. What an interesting approach to a song, y'all. We're going to keep moving, though. The next song is called Electioneering. And Tom York explained in the same article that this song was inspired by what he had been reading at the time. He says, "I had been reading a lot of Chomsky. And I had that feeling when you read Chomsky that you want to get out and do something about the world. And you realize, in fact, that you're quite impotent. So I am curious to see this one, a straight up overt song about politics. So let's take a look at Electioneering from Radiohead. Off we go. Still a consistency of sound palette. Kind of rockabilly. Sounds like they're in D minor. I will stop at nothing, say the right things when electioneering. I trust I can rely on your vote. This is about a politician. Gung-ho. Interesting. I go forwards, you go backwards. Somewhere we'll meet. Is he talking about his own self? I am you? I'm not sure. But verse 2 is way different than the first one. There's a 5, 6, nice to the 5. Interesting guitar melody. It's like it's wanting to break through, but it's not quite arriving where it wants to. Really interesting. Chromatics going on. It's still right over that beat. More aliens hanging out. And that one's going to stop. Whew. What I was thinking about, y'all, is the difference of the first first verse to the second verse. In the first verse, I will stop at nothing. Say the right things when electioneering. I trust I can rely on your vote, right? It's like, at first you're full of energy and you're gung-ho and you want to help the people and you want to be a part of the system for change, right? You want to be a part of that. And before long, you get jaded and maybe become more of a drain on the system than you are a catalyst for change, right? So in verse 2, riot shields, voodoo economics, your turn, your turn. It's just business, cattle prods, and the IMF. I trust I can rely on your vote. It's like no, I have become the thing that I didn't want to become. I have been changed by the environment and the system that I have placed myself in, and I'm realizing it, and I'm not happy about it. When I go forwards, you go backwards. Maybe it's both the same person. I go this way, but I go backwards. I go this way, but I go backwards, and I can't quite find the way to break through and fix the darn problem that I want to fix. That's interesting, friends. Really cool. Up next is a song called Climbing the Walls. And as I read in, this one is sung from the perspective of paranoid fear itself. Well, fear finally gets a voice, right? So Climbing Up the Walls is a song that is described as scary. And it relies heavily on strings, but not in a conventional way, as the string section, composed by Johnny Greenwood, features 16 different violins playing quarter tones apart from each other. So let's talk about quarter tones for a second. We've got half steps, right? We've got a full step, we've got a half step, and then we got half of a half step, and that's a quarter tone. So they're dividing half steps into two intervals, and that creates a really interesting palette. I am curious to hear this. So let's hear a little bit of Climbing Up the Walls. Off we go. As soon as I heard it, I thought dark or Comfortably Numb, B minor. That's what it reminded me of. So they're in B. 6, 1, 6. Eerie. I am the key to the lock in your house that keeps your toys in the basement. Fear me. Glad that I've got the lyrics, because he's not singing with a lot of enunciation, is he? It's kind of all muffled together. We'll all you'll only see my reflection. Either way you turn, I'll be there. Open up your skull, I'll be there. Climbing up the walls. Interesting sound on the percussion too. Everything's like filtered in a really unique way. So lock the kids up safe tonight, shut the eyes in the cupboard. You, just, it's creepy. And they've already told us that they're a creep. It's a different album. Just going crazy, right? Just makes us nuts. There's that guitar that goes up and it's a half step where it wants to go, right? Similar to the last song. They're going into the major key. Sound like they were doing a 2 to 5. Climbing up the walls. There's those strings. They're sneaky with these soundscapes. It's going to hang out right there and fade out. It's not ending on the 1 chord. It's an E minor chord. So if you're in B minor, you're either ending on the 4 chord. They never really did go to the relative major, so it's not the 2 chord. So they're just kind of hanging out on that 4. And that is a way to do a prolongation of your tonic note, because the 4 chord has, the 4 chord, the 4 is down here, the do is the 5th note of that chord, right? Or the 5th of that chord. So you've got a prolongation of do, of tonic, by using that 4 chord. It's just not at home, right? It's a different chord. Really fascinating. Scary, yeah, but I made it through. I think we're going to make it, friends. Let's keep going. The next song is called No Surprises. And what I read about this one is that it was the first song to be recorded for the album, but it was the last single released. I think the 4th song that was released as a single from this album. So let's take a look at what No Surprises sound like. Here it is. Off we go. Major key. F major. And it uses that lay. That's the chromatic note, flat 6. But I think it's the minor 4 chord that's being done. Not just a regular 4 chord. 2/7. Lovely. That's a cool little sound. I like that. There's the two. Bring down the government, they don't speak for us. It's a pretty sharp lyric for the sound that he's using. No surprises. Silent, silent. Okay. Some glockenspiel in that. This is my final fit, my final bellyache, with no alarms and no surprises. Trying to interpret what they're talking about here. It's like he's trying to accept that no alarms and no surprises is good, right? Relax. Just let the day come. You know, you don't need to solve all the world's problems today. Just relax. Don't be alarmed. Don't be surprised. That's a cool move. You got a pretty house, you got a pretty garden. Maybe he doesn't like that. Because no alarms and no surprises, and then in parentheses, get me out of here. What do y'all think about this one? It's a lovely F major. But sentimental with that chromatically altered predominant chord. Interesting tune. And it's a nice palate cleanser after we've had a couple of real harsh sounding tunes previous to this. So it kind of lightens up the texture, but the lyrics are still pretty darn pointed, y'all. So let's keep going. The next one is called Lucky. And this one was written around the time of the Bosnian conflict in the 1990s, and it was recorded, I think, to be a part or featured on an album for relief efforts, specifically for that Bosnian conflict. And I think that, or I read that the song was originally more politically explicit, but for the finished product that we're going to hear, it's more on describing a plane crash, and it heavily reflects Tom York's fear of long distance travel. And we heard that, right, back on the first side in the last video that I did called Airbag, if you remember that one. I believe that starts off the whole album, if I remember right. So let's get back to this one, and it's called Lucky, and let's see how it goes. Off we go. So after the relative loveliness musically of the last piece, it's back to kind of this minor sound.
This time I feel my luck could change.
soundscape is oppressive, isn't it? It's like, yep, I'm gonna get you at some point.
Kill me again with love. It's gonna be a glorious day.
It's gonna be a glorious day in a somber E minor. How about that? Major A, back down to E. Major 4 chord. Pull me out of the air crash, pull me out of the lake. Wow, minor 1, major 4. Because I'm your superhero, we are standing on the edge. Wow. 5-6 to 5-7, full 5-7 back to 1. Awesome. The songwriting by these guys is so nuanced. There's nothing in this. There's nothing in these tunes that are like way innovative. But the way that they do it is so unique. And it has to do with all of the layering of these sounds on top of each other and making them more than the sum of their parts. Day. I can feel my luck could change. All right. A chord comes in early as part of that 4. Great little guitar solo, and then it leads into another, but you've got the other stuff hanging out with it that puts it into context. It's reminding me a lot of what I hear in Pink Floyd in their big sort of sonic landscape sections where they've got minor 1 and major 4, just like this. So what are we going to do now that we're on the edge? Because we have arrived at the very last song on the album. And what is going to happen now is what I want to know. We're down to the last one. And this one is called The Tourist. And apparently, the story behind this one is that Johnny had seen some tourists that were rushing through a lovely, quaint little town, I believe in France, and they were hardly stopping to enjoy themselves and just rushing through, and they didn't really take in or process what they were there to experience, right? And he just remembers going, just slow down, man. Just so the track is about, I think, just enjoying life and achieving this healthy work-life-play balance. And, I've been there. When you're a tourist and you're on a schedule, a lot of times you feel like you have to do all these things to make your investment into the experience worthy or worth what you spent on it. Well, if I'm going to go to the Grand Canyon, I got to do this, 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 and this. If I'm going to go to Disney World, I got to do all of these things. And you get so just darn tired and exhausted by doing all that stuff that you forget to just, enjoy it, process it. Some of the latest trips and vacations that we've done, we haven't had much of agenda. We're just getting away, and we want to enjoy nature. We want to take walks. We want to be outside. We want to breathe the air, and we want to process all that's happened, and then refocus ourselves for where we're gonna go next. That's really been lovely for me. So I empathize with this. But let's take a look and see what this sounds like. It is called The Tourist, and it's the last one on the album, and it goes like this. Off we go. Suspended. Minor 5. I think they're in a major key though. That they're not in a hurry. That is a chromatic chord. It's a major chord. So I think that's the one chord. They're in B major. Down to F sharp, but it's a minor chord. And then to that flat 7, which has that A in it. Down by half step, right? So that's the 6th chord, which makes that G sharp, a G sharp major chord. And then right back where they came from. Interesting. Hey man, slow down. Another chromatic 3rd. F sharp. And there's that flat 7. Sometimes I get overcharged. That's when you see sparks. Interesting. I'm trying to figure out the word, the adjective. It's an interesting choice for an ending song of an album, especially this one. They ask me where the hell I'm going at 1,000 feet per second. What are you doing? Just live, man. To quote Matthew McConaughey, L-I-V-I-N. Idiot, slow down. Judgment. You guys, man. figure out what to make of everything, you know? That's a new chord. Minor five, flat seven. Dinner's ready. We get a triangle at the very end. Yep, after all of that, that is all the time we have for today. Please put your tray tables and back to their upright and locked positions. We're going to land this. I think I made that reference during the first part of that. Wow. What a crazy album, y'all. I love it. I really do. I don't know if it would be the first thing that I'd pull off the shelf to put on and experience. I have to be in a mood, I think, to really experience something like this. But such a beautiful album. Tom has a specific way of singing that makes him sound vulnerable and just steadfast at the same time, and it's a real special quality to his voice, and everybody else in the band is lending their talents, and it really is a gestalt, something that is bigger and more just bigger than the sum of its parts, and from what they put into it, and it's become this big thing. So in 2017, as the album was celebrating its 20th anniversary and being re-released with the new mix, there was quite a bit of conversation about the legacy of the album and the place that it holds in modern society now 2 decades later. The OK Not OK expanded release includes the remastered original album, but they also have 8 B-sides, 3 previously unreleased tracks. In the vinyl edition, which I have back at the house, it includes a collection of Tom's notes, a sketchbook of the band's preparatory work for the album, and even a cassette tape that has additional demos and session recordings. I haven't found a way to listen to the tape yet, but it's a remarkable package that they put together. So just a little bit to wrap up here, friends. Tom was 27 when he started working on this, and it was just coming off several years of touring, and he said, I was basically catatonic, telling Rolling Stone. This is this big Rolling Stone album in 2017 is where I'm getting most of this extra information. And he says the claustrophobia of just having no sense of reality of all, right? And that was from years of touring, right? Coming off years of touring, I was basically catatonic. The claustrophobia, just having no sense of reality at all. Imagine living your life and most of it is traveling in these, little cars or buses or the metal tubes in the sky, and it's just, you have no sense of home anymore. And though Tom insists that this album, OK Computer, was inspired by the dislocation and paranoia of nonstop travel. And we get 2 songs that are based on that, right? In this album, the album is now largely understood as a record of how unchecked consumerism and an over-reliance on technology can lead to automation and eventually alienations from ourselves and from each other. And I think they were ahead of their time. And I was in college when this came out, and I was learning about the world and learning about politics and learning about how it all worked at a very rapid clip. At that time in your life, it's all about learning and reading and learning new stuff. And I was coming to some of the same conclusions and worries about what's going to happen down the line. And now that we're living in what's happening down the line, I think they were quite prescient. And the songs are there, I think, to remind us of what's important, especially that last one. Just slow down, y'all. We don't have to seize the day for everything that we want to do at one time. You know, we there's only so much that our biological brains can process at any given time. Let yourself be. Let yourself exist. You know, have an imagination, daydream a little bit, take some time and prioritize the things that bring us together and heighten the human experience instead of the things that tend to alienate us and help us or help make us feel more alone and separated from each other. Some of these things that are coming that are newly available to us technologically are great tools for us to help you know, help us along our way as we are learning new things and we're trying to get new perspectives. We can be connected with people and ways of thinking from around the world quicker than we ever have before. We have access to like the world's knowledge in our hands, right? You know, and but we can get tied to these things, you know, too much and put too much reliance on all of that stuff. So especially as I am out and doing other things this summer and trying to keep the YouTube channel going and make sure that everybody is getting what they need from me. It's also important for me to take some time and breathe and remember what it means to have meaning in this existence and in this life. And so, what a fantastic album, friends, to bring all of that to the forefront and to live with it for a while. I am going to enjoy this one for quite some time, and it's very apparent that many of y'all have for years, decades, and will continue to. So what a great experience. Radiohead and OK Computer. We got to the end of it, y'all. Thanks for being with me today. We will see you next time on another edition of the Daily Doug.
It's the Daily Doug. Welcome to the Daily Doug. The Daily